As we get ready for week 17, we're going to have some NFL action on Christmas Day. The bad news is we could see starting quarterbacks like Max Brosmer, Chris Oladokun, and Josh Johnson. What do you think about that, Chris?
I would rather wake up to coal in my stockings, to be honest.
Well, obviously a lot has changed at the quarterback position, and you never know what to do at tight end. Let's break it down for you. We're going to go through every matchup for week 17 and figure out who to start and who to sit. You definitely want to start these guys if you have them. At quarterback, it's Josh Allen and Matthew Stafford. At tight end, Trey McBride, Harold Fannin, and George Kittle if he plays. Before we get into the start sits of every matchup for this week, one quick favor to ask, hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. We are trying to get to our goal of 100,000 subscribers. Hard to believe we're almost there, but we need your help. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, take a second to do that. Let's start with that first Thursday game on Christmas Day. It's going to be the Cowboys at the Commanders. Well, on the one hand, it's still Dak Prescott for Dallas and still Jake Ferguson at tight end going against the Commanders' defense.
Yeah, you got to feel good here. I'm going to say Dak a strong start. George Pickens looks motivated again. I'm sure CeeDee Lamb will have a nice game here. You should feel very good about Dak. I'll say Ferguson solid, but lower end solid. I know the touchdowns haven't been there, but it's the Commanders' defense. They're so bad. I want to take a chance here.
They are bad. There's no argument there. The thing with Dak, he's been slowing down lately. Leading the league in pass attempts, sure, but all of a sudden went down to 30 last week, and the touchdowns have gone away. He's only got 2 over the past 3 weeks total. He's not showing us that ceiling anymore, and the problem is they just really might not need to pass much in this game. I don't feel like it's going to be a shootout, so I'll keep Dak as just solid, more as a high floor option. And then Ferguson, the same thing. What has happened with this guy? He hasn't scored a touchdown in 5 straight weeks. I think he's just a streamer. Now for Washington, again, Marcus Mariota had been the guy. We know JD is done for the season, but Mariota left last week with a hand injury. If he can't go, it is journeyman, and I mean that to the extreme, Josh Johnson. This guy's been everywhere. What do you make of this?
Yeah, he's been everywhere, but he's not going to be in my fantasy lineups, not even against the Cowboys. No chance. I'll say if Mariota is cleared and good to go, I think you could start him in Superflex. It is the Cowboys after all.
It is the Cowboys, I know, but I feel like this guy is not 100%, and I don't know. I just can't bring myself to do it in this all-important week. I'm just going to avoid this quarterback situation and whatever the tight end situation even is. Game 2 on Christmas Day is going to be the Lions at the Vikings. All right, so again, we have a pretty steady, high-octane pass offense in Detroit. Jared Goff put up numbers again. Can he do it against his Vikings defense on the road?
Yeah, I don't feel quite as good here on the road against this Vikings defense. I'm just going to say Goff a high-end streamer here.
I'm going to put him as a low-end streamer. This Vikings defense is actually getting better as the season goes on. Over the last 4 weeks, they've given up the fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks. And if who we think is the quarterback on their side, this is just going to not be a high-scoring game, period. It could be the return of Max Brosmer, because you saw J.J. McCarthy suffered a right hand injury. That's his throwing hand, so what's going to go on here? If McCarthy does play, would you at least consider him?
I think if he plays and he's cleared and they're like, no, it's not an issue, he's fine, I think you got to at least take a chance on him in Superflex. It's the Lions. They've been horrible on defense lately. Max Brosmer, no, we saw this already. The floor here is instant. From now until the start of next fantasy season, you are just questioning life and your life choices here. You cannot do this with Max Brosmer, and I'm not doing it with TJ Hawkinson either.
Yeah, either way, you have to avoid Hawkinson this week. And not a lot of players where you legitimately have to worry about getting negative points. Brosmer is one of them, clearly. I'll agree, though, if McCarthy plays. We've seen him run near the goal line and run it in. He can make big plays at times, but just super flex. Then the final Thursday night game, it's going to be the Broncos at the Chiefs. Again, not exactly what we thought we were going to get on Christmas Day. So first, let's talk Broncos. You got Bo Nix, continues to be solid, if not spectacular, every week. Evan Ingram has continued to, do nothing most weeks.
Yeah, you can't even consider Evan Ingram, barely even involved in this offense. I'll say Bo Nix. I'm going to say a high-end streamer here. Like, he's usually better at home than on the road, but this Chiefs defense, they've packed it in. They know it's on to next year, right? So I think he should be okay in this game. High-end streamer.
Yeah, this feels like it should be a bounce back for the Broncos and take advantage of the Chiefs pretty much, kind of disconnecting from this year. They're ready to go. Trent McDuffie is hurt. Other players might sit. Who knows? So I think Nick should be solid here. Then on the KC side, unfortunately, Gardner Minshew also done for the season. So it is Chris Oladokun at quarterback. I don't think we need to talk about him too much, but man, this is really disappointing. Travis Kelce thought he might actually finish the year strong, and now what?
Now it just looks like a sad end to one of maybe the greatest, honestly. Let's be real. We joke about Travis Kelce a lot, like Dust, Mr. Taylor Swift, but in all seriousness, maybe the greatest tight end in the history of the NFL, Travis Kelce, or up there, at least top 3, top 5 of the greatest tight ends of all time. What a sad, sad way for this to end, but it is what it is. You cannot start Travis Kelce this week, unfortunately.
No, there's no way you can justify it. Just go elsewhere, look in the waiver wire. You've got to do it. You can't start Kelce. Now, while you're locking in those players for your fantasy lineups before Christmas Day, don't forget, lock in your underdog picks. It's still a great time to sign up if you haven't yet. You'll get a free pick on Christmas Day. It's Jahmyr Gibbs, just going higher than 0 combined yards. It's a gimme pick, and you get that for signing up for the first time on Underdog. If you use code ENDGAME at checkout, you'll also get something every day in your lobby. It's Underdog Unwrapped. You get profit boosts, you'll get free picks, and so much more. So check it out now. Don't forget, you still also get your deposit match, and as soon as you play $5 towards any picks, you get another $100 in bonus funds. Just make sure you use code ENDGAME before you check out. This week, we're also going to have 2 Saturday games for NFL. So start with the Texans at the Chargers. 2 good teams who do have all their pieces intact in the passing game. Let's start with CJ Stroud, Dalton Schultz. This combo honestly kind of let down last week, even against the Raiders. Stroud just did not look good.
No, he did not. What a big old bust last week against the Raiders. I mean, they barely beat the Raiders with this defense. Can this team really win a Super Bowl with this offense? Man, I have my doubts, but as far as fantasy goes this week, this is a much tougher spot on the road against the Chargers, super flex only. I will say Schultz still solid. He gets such a good target share. It just feels like he has such a high floor for a tight end. If I got Schultz, I just pretty much set and forget.
Yeah, for Stroud, any trust that he had built up, it's gone now. On the road against the Chargers, barely super flex for me. Dalton Schultz, though, I will say, didn't think he would do great last week. He did score, but the numbers weren't really that big in terms of yardage. This week it could be, because even though it's not a smash spot, he gets involved. I think that they'll need him more. I think I'm going to put him in the solid range here. He's probably one of your better streaming options if he's out there. On the other side, Justin Herbert had a nice game, but that was against the Cowboys defense here. Now he gets the Texans. So how far down does he fall the rankings this week?
Yeah, he's going to fall all the way to super flex for me. Last week I was very high on Justin Herbert against the Cowboys. A lot of people were nervous because he'd been so bad. I'm like, it's the Cowboys, but now it's the Texans. Oh man, I can't do this. This feels too risky. And Oronde Gadsden, thanks for nothing last week. Get out of here. Sit.
Yeah, no, Gadsden, he's dead to me for this year. No way. I will say this, I definitely don't want Herbert in my lineup in a 1 QB league, but I'm going to keep him as a streaming option. We've seen this Texans defense is still legit. I'm not saying they're not, but maybe a little bit of chinks in the armor. We saw Brissett put up a good game against them, and then last week, they actually allowed Geno Smith to not look horrible. He threw for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. I figure Herbert can do better than that, so I think you could start him if you need him.
Do you want to get advice from Pierre and myself at the tip of your fingertips? Start, sit, waiver wire, trades, and more? Well, you can do all of this and more on our new app, Draft Lane. We have the ability to view your roster, waivers, and more to give you the right feedback to make the perfect choice. Download Draft Lane from the App Store or Google Play, or use these handy QR codes. And first-time users can use code ENDGAME to get 10 free credits and get your questions answered today.
On Saturday night, it's going to be the Ravens at the Packers. It's a big game, but also big question marks here because both teams saw their starting quarterback leave early last week. So start with Baltimore. Could be Lamar, could be Tyler Huntley. see how that back feels later in the week. And then, well, I don't know. Do we even need to think about the Baltimore tight ends at this point?
Nah, we can move on from these guys. Ever since week 15 against the Bengals when they busted, I'm done with these guys. I'll say if it's Lamar Jackson, he's good to go. He's got to at least be solid. I mean, okay, we're probably not going to get the rushing upside from Lamar Jackson this year, especially now with this back injury. We just aren't going to get it. But he's still a good passer. I think he's better than most of your options. He's still got to be solid. It's Tyler Huntley. I'll say super flex. He's not the worst backup out there. He at least, has been serviceable at times. So if you need to in a super flex league, sure.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone over several quarterbacks that I would prefer Huntley to. But again, super flex only. You shouldn't be starting him in a 1 QB league. As far as Lamar, there's a lot of trust issues here. It's like always something this year. It just feels like he's snake bit. But they need him. They need to win this game. He's Lamar Jackson. I'm going to squeeze him into the solid tier, but I still don't feel great about it. And as far as the Packers go, we could see Malik Willis, who came in relief of Love last week. He's in the concussion protocol. If Love plays, how good do you feel? And how good do you feel about Willis if he's the guy?
I actually feel pretty good about Willis. Willis didn't look bad last week. He runs. I think I'm only going to say super flex for Willis, but I'm going to say probably one of my favorite super flex options. To be honest, Jordan Love, I'm going to say a streamer this week. I mean, at least they are at home. The Ravens defense has been a little better, I guess. Drake May he did throw for a ton of yards. I guess I'll give him that. He did do that. So if Jordan Love plays, a streamer. Malik Willis, very good in Superflex. But look, it might not be either of these guys, honestly. Even Malik Willis is banged up right now.
Yeah, it looks like a situation you'd rather just avoid. Hopefully you have better options here. I guess we could say Love is a low-end solid option as well. Like you said, they need to win this game as well. At least they want to, and it's at home. Malik Willis almost to me has more fantasy upside because of that rushing that he brings to the table. But at the same time, it's still Malik Willis. Let's just leave it as a super flex option. Now on to the Sunday slate. Start with a matchup in the Sunshine State with two teams that now look like they might both miss the playoffs. What is going on in Tampa Bay? The Bucs are going to take on the Dolphins this week. So seriously, what's going on with Baker Mayfield? Now he can't even manage 200 yards, and they keep losing to their divisional opponents.
Yeah, and it does seem like the Bucs are trying to hide him. They're just not really letting him throw the ball much. But this is the Dolphins. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here, but I can't go too crazy. I'm just going to say a streamer.
I just don't see it with him. Something obviously wrong here. I'm putting him down to the super flex range. Too risky here. Not look like himself for about 2 months now. And so again, it's Dolphins team. They're going to slow it down or run the ball. The defense hasn't been terrible, other than last week. But still, that was Joe Burrow. Baker Mayfield not looking like himself. I can't risk him in my lineup week 17. And speaking of risk, it looks like it's going to be Quinn Ewers again at quarterback. He wasn't horrible, but at the same time, we're talking fantasy football here.
He wasn't horrible, but he also wasn't great. You can't start him. You can't start Waller. No way.
Now, if Waller couldn't do anything against the Bengals, why would you consider him against anybody else? Patriots at the Jets this week. Drake May coming off a monster game, and now he gets the Jets. Is this too good to be true?
It might be too good to be true, but you gotta find out here. Drake May's mostly been good this year. How do you not start Drake May? Strong start. And then I'll say Hunter Henry, look, one of the many guys who randomly showed up out of nowhere last week, but it is the Jets this week. I think you can stream him, a good streamer this week. He may bust, he may do nothing, it may be a trap, but take a chance here.
Well, with May, yeah, exactly. It's almost sure to be a letdown after last week and what he did. But then again, think about Trevor Lawrence against the Jets a couple weeks ago. So if you have May, just don't even question your quarterback situation. It's not so simple with Hunter Henry. He could do nothing. But again, if you're streaming tight ends, he might be the best thing out there. And then we're just going to assume at this point they're rolling with the Brady Cook in New York. And I don't think anything's going to change drastically this week. Do you?
No, and they've already announced he's a starter, but that doesn't mean he's in any of my fantasy lineups.
Steelers taking on the Browns this week. At this point, you got Harold Fannin. Just put him in your lineup. You're good. Now, as far as the Steelers go, look, credit, they continue to win at the right time. Aaron Rodgers continues to look, like he's looked all year, but now he doesn't have DK Metcalf for the next 2 games. This can't make you feel any better about him.
I mean, no, it doesn't make me feel better, but it's not like DK Metcalf would have been like, oh, now I can start him. Nah. In Cleveland, Aaron Rodgers, no chance here.
And, in case anybody wants to ask, well, without Metcalf, what if Freiermuth or John Newsom? Like, no, don't start anybody in Pittsburgh here. You probably don't want to start anybody in Cleveland other than Harold Fannin. And with Shedeur Sanders, we haven't exactly seen progress.
Nah, the floor is just way, way too low here. You can't take this chance.
Jaguars facing the Colts this week. So Trevor Lawrence, look, I'm going to continue to say I was wrong. Maybe you are a franchise quarterback. Finally, just took a legit head coach like Liam Cohen to unlock him. So what do you think about T-Law against this Colts defense? And what about Brenton Strange?
Yeah, I'm not even going to lie. Like, how do we not have Trevor Lawrence as a must start? Like, the disrespect we're putting on Trevor Lawrence is ridiculous. How do you not start Trevor Lawrence after the run he's on right now? Look, Brock Purdy just threw 5 touchdowns against his defense. Strong start. And look, Brenton Strange showed signs of life last week, came out of nowhere, and the Colts have not been good against tight ends. I think he's got to be at least a streamer.
I don't know if I'm ready for all that, right? Baby steps. I don't know if I can call T-Law an absolute must start, but yeah, he's definitely going to be one of the best options this week at the whole position. So if you have T-Law, sure, just go for it. Strange showed signs of life again, but let's not go crazy here. They've got a lot of options at receiver, so he's still just a good streamer. Speaking of signs of life, maybe Phillip Rivers still has some left in the arm. Actually put up close to 300 yards, a couple of touchdowns there on Monday night. That said, does he have enough left in the tank to face this Jags defense?
We're going to find out. You can't feel very good here at all. He is at home at least, but I'm just going to say super flex here. This is a much, much better defense than the 49ers. And look, Tyler Warren, okay, he did almost have a touchdown, but Phillip Rivers, kind of floated it and the defense made a play. But that's the problem. It's Phillip Rivers. I still can't play Tyler Warren, especially against this Jags defense.
Well, Rivers, again, good for him. He is now in the super flex conversation, especially because there are so many worse quarterbacks out there. But as far as Tyler Warren, it's like, on the one hand, you got 9 targets. That's what you want to see for a tight end, especially, right? Getting involved, and the quarterback isn't horrible. But only 3 of them were receptions, only 30 yards. The touchdowns, you got to wonder, is that in play? But the Jags are, despite being a really good team and a good defense, one of the worst against the tight end. So I'll at least keep Warren as a flex consideration. All right, Saints at Titans this week. Tyler Shough, look, continues to do much better than a lot of these other rookie quarterbacks out there. He's looking pretty solid. And then Juwan Johnson having one of his best games last week. Do they keep it going against Tennessee?
Why not? It's the Titans. I know the Titans did pretty well against the Chiefs last week, but that was with the 3rd-string quarterback pretty much playing the entire game. Tyler Shough's been good this year. I'm going to say a streamer. And look, Juwan Johnson had a stretch there where I was like, okay, he's kind of gone back to mediocrity, but now it's just him and Chris Olave. That is it. You got to feel good here against the Titans. I'm going to say solid.
Yeah, exactly. Von Villay out. All the running backs are hurt. They're going to need Juwan Johnson, and so even if it's not the most exciting game, some fantasy points could be out there. Juwan Johnson, I think, is solid, and I can't quite go solid with Tyler Shough, but I think he's a high-end streamer. And the other side, same thing goes for Cam Ward. Looked really sharp last week. All right, maybe the Chiefs have given up on the season, but still, give him credit. He's getting slightly better. Is it good enough to consider him, though, this week? And then I know Chig Okonkwo was the guy who went off last week, but the week before was Gunnar Helm. Is it going to be anyone this week?
Well, that's the thing. It could be Helm, it could be Okonkwo, it could be a random wide receiver, it could be the running backs. It's just, you can't start these guys, too risky. But I will say, Cam Ward has, he's looked better lately. He's showing improvement. The Saints defense should not scare you. I'll say at least you could take a chance in Superflex.
Yeah, Ward definitely Superflex option, but I think that's as far as we can go and agree. The tight ends, if you don't know who it is, then you shouldn't have to think about starting one. Now let's talk Seahawks at Panthers. Seattle sliding up to the number 1 seed. Sam Darnold actually acquitting himself well against a good team. On the road against the Panthers, what does he do?
Well, I don't expect him to need to be playing from behind, throwing just absolutely absurd 2-point conversions off the face of the defender, off the helmet of the defender. Like, look, things went away last week that allowed Sam Darnold to have a pretty good fantasy game. I don't see that happening against the Panthers. It's probably going to be a low-scoring game here. I'm going to say super flex. And again, A.J. Barner had that long touchdown. That's great. They're not going to need that this week probably. So just a streamer and a risky one.
Yeah, this kind of feels like it might be a letdown game for Seattle, at least for the offense. Not saying they're going to lose, but Darnold is still just a super flex option, and Barner is still just a risky streamer. And then Bryce Young, give him credit for doing what he's been doing, but still, the ceiling has not moved for fantasy, has it?
No, I mean, he has this random big game every now and then it's like he goes back to just being like whatever. At home helps here, but this is also the Seahawks defense. Super flex only, and pretty much if you're just looking for a super flex floor.
Right, and like you said, this feels like it's going to be a slower paced game. Carolina, whether they win or not, doesn't matter for my fantasy lineup. Bryce Young, just super flex. Cardinals at the Bengals. Now this feels like it could be a high scoring game. Now, Trey McBride, despite last week, you still start him no matter what, especially against the Bengals. What about Jacoby Brissett? You knew this was going to happen, right? As soon as we said it, Brissett it and forget it. And now we can't just forget it because he had his worst game of the season. Does he bounce back?
I mean, why did he have his worst game of the season? Because Marvin Harrison came back and dropped an easy touchdown. Like, really, I blame Marvin Harrison for all of this. That being said, this is the Bengals. This is does feel like a bounce back spot. I really hope Marvin Harrison is not cursing Jacoby Brissett and this Cardinals offense. Don't do it, Marv. I'm going to say Brissett solid.
Yeah, he absolutely should have a comeback game against the Bengals. If the Bengals offense is anything close to what we saw last week, they're going to need to pass it plenty. So we'll forgive you, Jacoby. Let's just call you solid again. And if there were questions about Joe Burrow, pretty sure he answered them last week. Do you think he comes close to what he did in week 16?
I mean, he might not do what he did in week 16, but at home against this defense, you should feel pretty good. Strong start. And then I'll say Mike Gesicki. You can stream him. I don't love him, but he's always got touchdown upside.
Yeah, Gesicki. I don't really want to start him because the targets are inconsistent, but it's not a bad matchup. Sure, he's a streaming option if you need him. And Burrow, again, not many quarterbacks you can feel better about because you see what the ceiling is. Don't worry, he still likes football. He's fine. All right, now let's talk Giants at Raiders. This game is important for those who follow the NFL draft order. So let's start with the Giants side. Jackson Dart, he is still there. He's active. You might not know it from the box score. They seemed scared to throw the ball last week. Like, what's going on here? Can we even trust Dart anymore?
Well, trust is a strong word for pretty much anybody in this Giants offense, but I do feel like maybe that was by design against that Brian Flores defense. It's the Raiders. I think he'll throw it more this week. I don't think they'll be nearly as scared. I'm going to say super flex here, and Theo Johnson, again, just a low-end streamer here, only because it's the Raiders.
Yeah, so my concern might be like, what if they finally now decide we are going to just protect Jackson Dart, not let him run as much, not let him drop back as much, just keep him intact physically till the season is over. I don't think there's much of a ceiling here, but I guess it is the Raiders, so we'll say super flex. That's it. Theo Johnson, I don't know, just not enough here. Can't do it. And again, the Raiders aren't horrible against tight ends, so I'm going to look elsewhere. Now, the Raiders did get Geno Smith back. Wasn't too bad even against the Texans as he finished the season strong here. And then where do we rank Brock Bowers? I mean, he did score, but we haven't seen exactly what we wanted out of Brock Bowers lately.
Yeah, it would be a Geno thing to like finish the season strong after doing, being horrendous all year, and then convincing the Raiders just that he's just good enough to bring him back next year, right? But I'm not starting him a fantasy, no. I'm going to say Brock Bowers is a strong start. Okay, he didn't have like a massive yardage game he scored, but isn't that what we really are looking for from our tight end? Like, he had 6 catches, he had a touchdown. Like, how many tight ends are giving you that?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's tight end here. If you got Brock Bowers, you probably shouldn't think too hard about tight end unless you happen to have another elite tight end, which there are not that many of. So I'll just say Bowers is solid, and then Geno Smith, no. All right, Eagles at the Bills. I know some of you might question, do we absolutely have to start Josh Allen after last week? Yes, you still have to start Josh Allen. I mean, come on, who are you benching him for? What about Jalen Hurts? Is he up there as well? I mean, he hasn't been a must start for a lot of this season.
No, I don't think we can say that this week. On the road in Buffalo, it could be very cold. Buffalo's defense has been pretty good recently. But at the same time, I can't drop Hurts too low. I'm still going to say a very solid start here. But I do think there are definitely quarterbacks I would consider over Jalen Hurts this week. And then Dallas Goedert, I know he's been good, but man, the Bills have been tough against tight ends. I know Harold Fannin just had a nice game against him, but Harold Fannin is like the only guy Shedeur throws to. He's like the number one wide receiver for the Browns. That's not the case with Dallas Goedert. I'm just going to say this week Goedert is only a streamer.
Yeah, it is definitely a tougher spot, but Goddard has been involved heavily near the end zone and in the end zone, and so I still think I've got to put him above the other streaming options this matchup. I still got to call Goddard barely a solid option, and the same thing for Hurts. He always could run in a touchdown. They're going to need him this week, so not my favorite, but I think he's at least solid. And as far as Buffalo goes, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Jackson Hawes, any tight ends interest you?
Nah, I mean, they all kind of are interesting, but you never know which one it's going to be. And I mean, even Kincaid is kind of like taking a step back, not starting these guys.
Games like this, they do sometimes tend to lean on the tight ends more. I know it's hard to predict. I think Kincaid is at least streamable, but that's it. And Sunday night, we got the Bears at the 49ers. George Kittle had himself a game in Week 16, but then left late with an ankle injury, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that. But if he starts, you start him. What about the Bears here? We got Caleb Williams, Colston Loveland, who, well, he didn't go off with all those receiver injuries, so what do we do here?
Yeah, I think at this point you got to move on from Loveland, especially if like Burden or Romo Dunze or both come back this week. Nah. Caleb Williams, I'm going to say a streamer this week. Look, the 49ers defense is not good. They made Phillip Rivers at least, for 2.5 quarters or whatever it was, look pretty good on Monday night. I think Caleb Williams at least should be streamable.
He should be. I don't know. I must still have trust issues with Caleb Williams. Guy looks horrible at times. Then he makes some brilliant plays, but just not consistent enough here. And I just wonder if they're going to, again, try to keep that 49ers offense off the field, establish the running game. Just don't know if there's just enough meat on the bone here for Caleb in fantasy. So to me, he's more high-end, super flex. I don't want to stream him in Week 17. Colston Loveland had his chance last week. Can't trust him this week. I think we can trust Brock Purdy, man. Ever since coming back from injury, he has been, dare I say, elite. Can he do it again against Chicago?
Why not? At home against his Bears defense, the way he's playing right now, if you've got Brock Purdy, you just keep him in your lineup. Don't even think about it. Strong start.
Exactly. No questions asked here. Got so many weapons. So, yeah. Purdy, if you got him, just start him. Then Monday night, it's going to be the Rams at the Falcons. I think any questions or doubts about Matt Stafford have been erased. Even in a super tough matchup, he was elite last week. Just start Stafford. Colby Parkinson, I don't want to do this. Do you want to start any Rams tight ends?
Well, look, it's the Falcons. They've been terrible against tight ends. These guys are out there. They're getting involved. I think you could stream Parkinson. I think you could even take a chance on Terrence Ferguson. Honestly, if I had Travis Kelce and I was in the finals, I might just go grab Terrence Ferguson. I think you can stream him.
Yeah, all right, fine. Stream him if you want. Okay, now what about the Falcons side? Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts. Look, Kyle Pitts was still his favorite target even with Drake London back. Is Pitts a guy we just ride through the end of the season now?
Why not? It looks like it's finally happening. Look, it might only be for this little brief moment in time, but it's in the fantasy playoffs. It's happening. He's carrying you to the championship. Just keep rolling with Pitts. Strong start. And then I'll say Kirk Cousins. I don't know how he's doing this, but he's putting up decent fantasy games. This could be a game where they're, high scoring, a lot of plays. They're having to come from behind. I think you can play him in Superflex.
Yeah, you got to wonder if London gets a little more involved this week or actually catches some of those targets. It's a little tougher a matchup here, but exactly. Kyle Pitts, just don't question it. If you got him, he's very solid here. Kirk Cousins is still Kirk Cousins. He's only super flex. All right, a lot to digest there at quarterback and tight end. But of course, you make sure you get it right at running back and receiver too. You know we got start sit at every position and so much more. Whatever you need to help win in week 17, it's going to be right here.